You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-hosts, Kevin and Alex. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Another wonderful Tuesday night here on with you guys. We are over halfway through the fantasy football regular season, and it is it's officially time, right? Make those last few moves, be looking at playoff schedules, trying to see what you can get accomplished to kind of put your team over the edge and set yourself up for success.
Appreciate you guys holding down the fort while I was busy with the job the last couple of weeks. It's been an eventful time since I last spoke with y'all. Nothing has been more crazy though than what I think this last week was. And Derek, I know we'll get into it here a little bit, but man, crazy week football wise. I was unfortunate enough that the game that I was stuck with on my Fox channel here was Atlanta and Tampa Bay. And it was a high scoring affair, I can tell you that much. And I know that anybody who had Kate Otten was very happy about that. And that's what I'll get into here in just a moment. But Derek, how are you doing?
No complaints. It's managed to pull off a very important win in the home league. So that's always a plus. Kind of moving myself up towards that deal and really trying to jockey for one of those top three roster or top three playoff spots there, and trying to pull out the division here. So doing great, and having lots of fun with a lot of the best ball leagues here as well that I've been playing. So, but doing amazing.
All right. So as you may or may not know, the fourth weekend in October has been designated as National Tight Ends Day. And so the fourth weekend in October, it will be celebrated from here to eternity as National Tight Ends Day. And nowhere was that more apparent than, I guess, really everywhere, right? We saw some big tight end weekends. Kevin, we saw a Kyle Pitts sighting. Like I mentioned, I was able to watch that Atlanta-Tampa Bay game. And I think maybe people were still riding that train, or by battle of attrition, they had that player in their starting lineup. I don't know, like it maybe just out of stubbornness, you keep him in there because you're like, I drafted him so damn high. I still have him. I can't get anything for him. And he rewarded you nicely last week. Top tight end one overall, which I don't know if that's ever happened in his career, where he's been tight end one on a week. And now, granted, it's a young career, but with all of the hoopla surrounding him when he came out, well, then you had what?
Depending upon how you look at it, because in half point or full point PPR, he was tight end 2 overall.
Correct. I am looking at standard. So I'm at standard. Let's go to half PPR. He was 2 overall in that one. Yeah, Kate Otten was number 1. Either way, that was that game. That same game, Atlanta and Tampa Bay had the 2 tight end performances. Now, the Tampa Bay one makes sense, right? No Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans. I saw a stat where those 2 guys had combined for something like 75% of the receptions, and then the rest of the team had like 25% of the receptions. So you knew they were going to run the football, right? We knew Bucky Irving was going to be big in the passing game. We knew Kate Otten was going to be big in the passing game. And Baker still had a good week, right? Like Baker still got his. So, yeah, Kate Otten, Kyle Pitts. We had a good George Kittle sighting, right, on Sunday Night Football there with some long plays, 6 catches on 7 targets. Travis Kelce had a day, 10 catches, 12 targets, and found the end zone. Trey McBride with a big day. So like we saw finally some tight ends show up, and fitting. It was National Tight Ends Day. I don't know that that's a sustainable thing.
I think what was more telling about National Tight Ends Day was that there was 15 touchdowns caught by tight ends this past in week 8. So
which I also believe is a record, right?
It very well could be. Apparently this tight end grouping decided to save all of their touchdowns for this week.
There was a lot, and it was kind of fun to see. And we had there's just some other dudes too that like you don't think about, right? Nate Adkins, get out of here. Never heard of him. Actually, and he plays for the Broncos,
right? Let me rephrase that earlier. So there was 15 different tight ends that had caught a touchdown here in week 8. I would be highly impressed if anybody knew how many different tight ends have scored touchdowns through all 8 weeks of the regular season so far.
Oh, that's a great question. So 15 different tight ends scored a touchdown last week.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that you'd have to believe that there's 20 tight ends that have scored a touchdown this year.
Okay, you're too low.
I'm too low. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
32.
Closer. It's 40 different tight ends have scored a touchdown this NFL season. But it's just kind of telling that through 8 weeks there's been that kind of that kind of breakdown there, whereas in week 15 you had 15 different guys score touchdowns. Like, very, very interesting when you guys kind of look through some of that.
But yeah, aside from the tight end stuff, there's still some more fantasy implication stuff. Stephon Diggs, torn ACL, done for the season. That hurts for a lot of Houston fans. For Tank Dell owners, though, hi, how are you? That helps. But it's just another wide receiver that has gone down in what has already been a really difficult year. Remember the year, what was it, a couple of years back when it seemed like quarterback was just a doomed position, right? Like we could not keep the quarterback healthy at all. My signal goes out here. But it wasn't anything that like dirty plays, right? There's probably a few in there, but the quarterback wasn't staying healthy. Wide receiver is that attrition position this year, and I think has been really difficult, where we've seen really, really big names get hurt and miss time.
Oh yeah, you look at just through the first few of those, right? Jamar Chase has missed time. Chris Godwin, season ending. Jaden Reed's missed some time in there. Stephon Diggs, season ending.
Mike Evans, Nico Collins.
Right. DK Metcalf. Marvin Harrison
Debo,
Jr.
Ayuk.
Right.
Yeah.
And the list goes on. Devonta Smith missed time.
Rashee Rice.
Devontae Adams
Hollywood
missed
Brown
a couple
never
weeks.
even. Yeah, Devontae Adams. Hollywood Brown never even saw the field this season.
Right. Debo, Chris Olave, T. Higgins.
It has been tough. So I think, if you're struggling out there for wide receiver, and I think a lot of people are, and we'll maybe talk about it a little bit here as I'm seeing some of your questions come in. I'm in the same boat. Like I'm in the same boat as you. Like I'm struggling for wide receiver, and I'm trying to figure out what I want to do if I need to kind of, give the rest of the season away. What's my move at this point? Because we're still in a spot where you can have a decent year, right? Even if you are 2-6, right? You can still run the table, right? The next, 4 or 5 weeks as we get closer. That puts you at a above 500 clip, and generally in most leagues, right? Above 500 is going to be good enough to get you into the playoffs. So like you have a chance, but it's got to happen now. So like this is a very critical week, I think, for a lot of people to figure out how the rest of their season is going to look, especially if you're in a position like I am in the home league where the first 8 weeks have not gone the way that I hope they would. But I still have a chance. So.
Right. And there's certainly that ability that even if you're sitting 2-6 and you're able to turn around and go 6-4 through 6-2 through some moves. And I guess that's a little much, but
That's too many weeks. Yeah, you got about 6 weeks left in most leagues, right? You get to week 14, week 13, week 14.
Right. But if you go 5-1, right, you don't even necessarily have to run the table. But if you go 5-1, a lot of times getting even to 500, like that can put you in the hunt for the to make the playoffs. And all you got to do is get into the dance.
Yeah, as we've seen several times in our home league, right? Just got to get in.
For a long time there, the 8th seed had won as many championships as the number 1 seed going into that. So it can happen. So awesome. Any other thoughts there? Do we want to start hitting up some of these questions?
One more, the big one, and I know this actually does impact Kevin. Anthony Richardson got benched today. They're going to Joe Flacco, and I think
How does it impact me?
Well, I guess you don't have him. I know you had shares of Anthony Richardson, but it's not surprising after the guy took himself out. Like have you ever seen a quarterback tap his helmet and call to be taken out after a play? Never in my life.
Yeah, nope. I can't say that I have either.
So it's no surprise then that we learned today that the Colts, which I do think Joe Flacco gives them a better chance to win.
Go trade for Josh Downs right now. Like that is a move to make. Go get Josh Downs. Because Joe Flacco has some eyes for Josh Downs.
Yeah, he does.
So,
yeah. All right, let's get into our questions here.
Alrighty, awesome. Let's go ahead and start right here. Terrence over on YouTube. Should I fade the Broncos defense and special teams this week?
Yes, on the road at Baltimore, I would fade the Broncos defense and special teams this week. As good as they've been, that Baltimore offense has just they've just been putting up points, even in losses, right? They took Kansas City down to the final second and they were a toenail away, basically, from tying or winning that game. The Raiders somehow in week 2 in that loss, like they still put up 30 plus points, I think, and the Raiders came screaming back. And then last week against the Browns, like this was not an offensive issue. The defense has let them down after they've piled up these leads, is where the Ravens hiccups come. So I think the Broncos are in for a long day. They're going to figure out how far away they still are from championship caliber football, even with their good start here. So it's just kind of one of those things that I would fade them this week and probably next week against you could start them next week against the Chiefs. I would fade them this week against the Ravens.
Yeah.
Shoot, the Chiefs aren't all that impressive. Yeah, that's tough too. That'll be an 11 a.m. kick time by their body clock on the East Coast. That's after travel. That's tough. They say defense travels, but
Yeah. I would also fade this week as well. Next question, Terrence over on YouTube. QBs you would start over Burrow this week based off the matchup and upside. So I think the first 4 are probably pretty easy, right? Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels. I'd be inclined to even potentially look at Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
I mean, the first 4 for sure. Kirk against Dallas. Like Dallas gives up the 6th most points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks, so I like that point. Sam Darnold's got the Colts, and the Colts, right? At least with Flacco at the helm, the Colts may put up enough points to keep that thing interesting. But the Colts are defensively are still giving up the 8th most points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks, so I like that matchup there as well. Burrow. At this point, the Raiders are allowing the 11th most points to opposing fantasy quarterbacks. So it's more of a neutral matchup for Burrow this week, more so than a plus matchup.
Hurts has a pretty juicy one against Jacksonville.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, I think as we're looking at some of this projected rankings, Burrow's kind of 5th. But 2 names that Derek threw out that I think I agree with over top of that. They're listed 6th and 7th in these rankings that I'm looking at is Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold. But yeah, for sure, Hurts, Allen, Jackson, Daniels, like those are no brainers. And Derek has made the case for Cousins and Darnold, in my opinion. Kyler is kind of the cutout, where I think I'd rather have Kyler's going up against Chicago. I think I'd rather have Burrow going up against Las Vegas.
I mean, here's an interesting one for you. And this one here is one that I've kind of wrestled with a little bit. Would you go Matthew Stafford? Would you go Joe Burrow this week? Stafford has all of his weapons back up against Seattle.
Seattle.
In Seattle,
Burrow at home.
Yeah, okay. I think I like Burrow at home too. Look, I know Seattle is not what Seattle used to be, but that stadium still gives opposing quarterbacks fits, right? Like that, they're 12th man there. That's not fun to play in. So I agree with you. That is an intriguing one because he does have all of his weapons back. Cup's back, Nakua's back, Kyron looks great.
I have a feeling that matchup could get us into somewhere in a 28 to 24 type of realm, 30 to 27. Like I see that being a high scoring affair up in Seattle. Burrow in Las Vegas, 24-20. Like I just don't see as many points there, but I mean, I could certainly. Matt Stafford's probably the one that I'm like, it could go either way on that one for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think there's 4 for sure, and then there's 3 probablys.
Okay. I think I might move Stafford into more of that maybe category.
Yeah, he used that. So Darnold,
and Cousins probably,
and Stafford into a maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah.
All right, Terrence.
No, I'm just kind of combing through it. I don't think so.
Okay. Terrence over on YouTube, Ertz or Ferguson?
So Ferguson was non-existent, and I don't know. I watched some of that game while I was out at dinner. I didn't get to watch all of it. Was there a reason that he was non-existent? He wasn't hurt or anything, was he?
No, he wasn't hurt. San Francisco has a couple really good coverage linebackers, though. Like yes, San Francisco has not been giving it up to the tight end at all. So you needed Fergie to fall into the end zone to be relevant this week or last week. This week against Atlanta, again, Atlanta just gave up all of this
tight end
to
one.
Cade Otton.
Yeah, gave up a tight end one performance.
Yeah, so I like Jake Ferguson this week. Like he is the second option for this Cowboys passing game. Like until someone else can clearly step up on the outside opposite of CeeDee Lamb, it is Jake Ferguson, and I'm. Unless I have a clear like top 3-4 option over that, I'm leaving Fergie in.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Right, the matchup far better for Dallas versus Atlanta than Ertz against the Giants. Right, the Giants giving up the second fewest points to opposing fantasy tight ends, so very, very difficult matchup. Zach Ertz, though, probably maybe a little bit more of a floor play. Like he seemingly just seems to get his 4 for 40 every game to it. You know, if he manages to get into the end zone, you'll see a bit of a spike week, but 4 for 40 is pretty consistent for Ertz. Ferguson certainly has probably a very comparable floor this week and certainly has the higher ceiling. So I'd lean Ferguson as well. Any other thoughts on that one?
No.
All right, Terrence over on YouTube, kicker Butker or Aubrey?
Aubrey, and it's not even close.
Cosign.
Aubrey's playing inside, right? Even though they're on the road. Dallas cannot find the end zone, so their best bet is to kick long-ass field goals. Aubrey does that pretty well. Butker's going to be playing outside Monday night, and it looks like there's rain in the forecast there in Kansas City, so keep me 1,000 miles away from that. A kicker in the rain? No, thank you. Give me the guy that's inside and on the team whose offense cannot find the end zone, but can get close enough to give him a shot, which is literally get the ball on the other side of the 50.
Fair enough. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, I'm agreeing with that.
All right, Terrence over on YouTube. Defense, special teams, streamer, Titans, Patriots, Saints, Bears, Browns are available.
Saints, they're playing Panthers
Carolina.
this week.
Yeah.
With a Titans close second because they've got the Patriots.
If Drake May's playing, the Patriots can move the ball.
It's fair.
Right? Like,
you don't want the Bears. They've got
Arizona
in Arizona. I don't know that you want the Browns with the propensity of the quarterback to now throw 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions each game. I'm not sure that that's something that you want to put your Browns. By the way, a hat tip to Jameis Winston for Kevin said it on Sunday in the group chat, and it was Jameis is back, and unfortunately Jameis was back on Kevin's bench, right?
He is a great third quarterback to have in a super flex, though.
He is.
Yep.
He's
Like,
a fantastic one.
I now feel like I don't have to worry about my quarterback position because I was worried running Will Levis or Mason Rudolph out there as my third quarterback if I had to. And I think I didn't even play him. Like, even on the bye weeks for Jalen Hurts and Darnold, I played a running back or a wide receiver in my super flex spot. Now I don't have to worry about it. Now I got JMO. If one of them goes down, I at least have a fighting chance. I might have negative points because of all the interceptions, but I could just as easily have 60 points because he's just going to huck it around the yard.
True.
He will do that. You know that he's going to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, back to that question, Saints, and it's not close for me. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, cosign.
All right. Blue Jays over on YouTube, looking to make a 2-for-1 wide receiver upgrade. They've got Cup, DJ Moore, Reed, Myers, Coleman. What tier of wide receiver do you think they can get for Reed and Coleman? DK, Brian Thomas Jr., any ideas?
Maybe DK. I mean, DK's been hurt. Someone's maybe down on him. Reed's had a couple down weeks. Coleman's coming off an up week. So it's all kind of variable. But I mean, the DK owner might be tired of, of dealing with him being nicked up a little bit this year. Brian Thomas, that should work for Brian Thomas Jr. in kind of the upside, but the way he's been the standard in Jacksonville, that's probably not going to get it done there unless he's going to miss a little bit of time. And that league mate of yours feels like they just need a starting presence at receiver. If Reed wouldn't have had the back-to-back down weeks, I think you could probably get that to work. But you're going to have to sell him on the Brian Thomas Jr. But I think DK, because of his injuries and being out the last couple of weeks, maybe they're feeling some pain and needing to make a move. It may not be a bad idea.
Right.
I can tell you, I got DK in my high school league, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. So somebody presented me with that, I would seriously consider it.
Yeah, I could see that. And I you know what? I would take a run and just see if I could try and pull off the Brian Thomas Jr. He's got that contusion, that chest contusion going on. Considered day to day at this point. So to Kevin's point, right? If that manager is feeling a little leery on that or is a little concerned about that one, could be a way to potentially try and buy low on that one. But I could see that one not being close enough that you might be able to pull that one off. DK, I feel like you could probably get that one there. I might even reach out and see if I could try and pull off like a Terry McLaurin, right? A lot of folks, he's had kind of a sneaky presence here, streaking up the last few weeks that a lot of folks aren't necessarily paying attention to that one. A lot of times there. So you may be able to pull off that one as well. And I wouldn't mind having a Terry McLaurin type of deal there with Jaden Reed or with Jaden Daniels being the seemingly favorite target there.
Another thing you could do is look at Cup and Reed and go get Tyreek.
Yeah.
Right. Not a great week with Tua, but Tua's back. We have some faith there. It's a little bit of a boom bust, but I think Cup has a sense of that with him as well, right? With maybe some of the injuries, if you're a little weary about him re-aggravating the ankle or whatever that may be for you. I know you've sat on Cup this long, but if you're looking for a 2-for-1 splash to get a big upgrade, take Cup, who is some weeks going to be the guy, and some weeks he's going to be kind of the number 2 guy, it looks like, there with the Rams. Take Jaden Reed and go get Tyreek, and then you're running Tyreek and DJ Moore out week after week together, and there's your 1-2 punch at receiver. That's not bad.
Yeah, I like that. Cool. Any other thoughts on this one?
Nah.
All right. Smokey the Cat over on YouTube. What's up, guys? Tight end day came in clutch. He hit on a TD parlay with Kelsey, Laporta, Pitts, Otten, Njoku, and Kincaid. $20 for a 3K. That's an excellent day. Excellent day.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The Smitty over on YouTube. Was this a good trade? I traded Flowers for Monty. I would do that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I like Monty.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That one came. If that one came through the inbox, I couldn't hit. Couldn't smash yes fast enough. So I like it. Jesse over on YouTube traded Kamara, Ridley, Tillman for Kenneth Walker, Tank Bigsby, and Tracy Jr. Thoughts, fellas?
Traded Kamara, Ridley, and Tillman for Walker, Bigsby.
So Bigsby. Sorry, never mind. I was thinking of Tank Dell. I don't know that
I think I would have rather had the Kamara, Ridley, and Tillman side.
I think so too. I think I would have stayed put there. Kamara's having a great year.
Yeah, he is, and Kenneth Walker's having a really good year as well.
Yeah.
But
Tillman seems to be kind of emerging the last couple of weeks as this possible number 1 option for the Browns. And what that is, Calvin Ridley finally had himself a game last week. Now I expect him to be a little bit more up and down for sure. And the thing with Tank Bigsby and Tyrone Tracy is they're both splitting backfields. Kamara has that thing all to himself. He really does. Tank Bigsby, as soon as ETN's healthy, it is going back to a timeshare at best, and worst case for Tank Bigsby, ETN, follow the money. They're going to play ETN. I think that's the reason they held him out this last week, is they wanted him to be kind of in tip-top shape. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bigsby fall back to a 35% snap share. Tyrone Tracy is seemingly growing in snap share, but you still have a really bad Giants offensive line, and you still also have Singletary back there who's just taking touches away from him. So I see why you would like it. It's not going to kill you, especially if you have the depth at receiver to kind of dance around it here a little bit, but not knowing the rest of your roster, I think I'd rather have the Kamara, Ridley, and Tillman side.
Yeah. Although, yeah, I know for at this point, Ridley will probably be much more consistent, better down the stretch, simply because he no longer is on my roster in the home league. And seemingly every time that I moving Calvin Ridley off the roster in the home league, all of a sudden, we start seeing big weeks on that one. So who knows? Who knows? It could be a sign of things to come there. But all righty, good question there. Mario over on YouTube. So is CMC coming back to earn that bag, or should we just drop him? There's reports that he may be week 10.
Yeah. I think you've waited this long. You might as well wait 2 more weeks. It's a bye week this week, so you're not losing anything on CMC. Right. And then see what the reports are early next week in practice. So as of, Friday? No, this morning. he was doing a simulated practice kind of by himself here at the moment during the bye week to kind of get up and running. So I do think there's a chance you see him. Now, I don't know that you see him in, I guess, the 101, 102 type Christian McCaffrey spot that you drafted him in, but most likely he's going to be better than whatever second running back option you've been trotting out there. Most likely. So there's nothing wrong with that. You've waited this long. Hold on just a little bit longer. See what happens.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Last thing you want to do is drop him and get burned by him.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those players that, as painful as it is, you waste the bench spot. So that way you can't allow any of your other league mates to pick him up and then burn you with him later on in the season.
Yeah, that's the worst thing that in the world, when you drop a guy and somebody else picks him up right away, and then in weeks 14 or 15 causes, or weeks 15 or 16 in the playoffs, or even week 17 sends you home without a ship. So all righty, good question though. Kells over on YouTube, would you pick up Elijah Moore or Troy Franklin?
Are
those my only options?
No. Maybe a flyer on Elijah Moore. Maybe. Denver just spreads the ball out so freaking much. That's it. It's the good thing with how Bo Nix has had some success his rookie year, but it's not helping for fantasy, right? We finally saw Cortland Sutton look like a true number one receiver a little bit last week, but it was against the Panthers. But other than that, he's been spreading it around. Everybody's getting catches. A couple tight ends are getting catches. There's 5 different wide receivers getting catches. There's at least 2 different running backs getting catches. Like it's like the Oprah Winfrey show of football, right? You get a pass catch, you get a pass to catch, you get a pass to catch. Like, so no, I don't want Troy Franklin. I don't. I'd rather gamble on Elijah Moore. We know JMO likes to take the deep shot and gamble a little bit. Elijah Moore can be a speed guy there out of the slot, create some mismatches. So you could see him have a random big week. It's just, you got to hope the week you're playing him is when it happens.
Is Cedric Tillman available? If Cedric Tillman's available, I'd rather have him than both. And he's on the vast majority of waiver wires out there. So that's how I would look at that one. Any other thoughts there?
Negative.
All righty. Mario over on YouTube. Chiefs, Commanders, Chargers, or Saints D?
Saints.
Yep.
Playing Carolina.
Yeah.
At this rate, and I'll let you guys in on a little cheat if you can do it. It's something that I probably shouldn't let you in on, but we'll do it anyways because we like you. If you can find it, and if you have the spot on your bench, if you have like a super deep bench and you can stash teams away, and you can find the team that is playing Carolina next week, not just this coming week, but the week after, right? And then go that route. You need to find whatever team is playing Carolina. That's your defense and special teams. And if you can't do that, find whatever team is playing Tennessee, because that's your defense and special teams, right? So, and then look ahead to next week, to the week, the upcoming week. So week 10, figure out who they're playing, see if that team's on waivers, snatch them up now, and then just stay 2 weeks ahead versus just the 1 week on the streaming.
Right. Yeah, I'm with Kevin this week though on Saints. Yeah, no, all right. Mario over on YouTube saying that Dak just didn't target Ferguson. Back to the what happened to Ferguson comment there. And, they're just not a fan of Dak. So there we go. All right, Mario over on YouTube. Different Marios, by the way, there, but different Mario. By the way, they're fading the Broncos. Not confident in the rest of season schedule.
Why not?
That's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the best way to go about it.
I'm not worried about the Broncos against the Chiefs. That's what this whole defense has been built for, right? They give Patrick Mahomes hell. So they get the Chiefs twice. I don't love their matchup this week against the Ravens. I don't love their week 17 matchup at Cincinnati necessarily. So if you get to a championship game, maybe that's something to look at. But I'm not too worried about them against Cleveland. I'm not worried about them against Kansas City. Like they find ways to just mess with Patrick Mahomes a little bit. So I think they're okay there. They have the Raiders again. They have the Chargers again. Like I don't hate their rest of season. I'm not saying they're going to win all these games, right? I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying for fantasy purposes, I could see them getting after some of these guys. They have a hard time sacking Mahomes, but normally they force him into a turnover or two. So you get the points there. And normally those are lower scoring games, especially with the way the Chiefs offense have been playing too. So you could see that game be, 17-13 Chiefs in one round. And then maybe you see a 24-21 Chiefs or Broncos, right? If they could possibly split it. But I'm not too worried about that. They'll split with the Chargers. They split with the Chargers every single year. The Raiders look terrible. So I think
that game's in Vegas,
finally,
so it's another de facto home
it
game.
is. It is, but I think the Broncos finally kind of snapped that boogeyman thing with the Raiders after dropping the last 7 or 8, whatever it was, against the Raiders, being able to come back there. So I like their chances against the Raiders. I think they split against the Chiefs, against the Chargers. The Chiefs, if the Broncos split, that's a win, right? We expect the Chiefs to win both those games, but they do play the Chiefs well. It's just I say we as the Broncos, they don't come up with the crucial play at the right time to beat the Chiefs, and Mahomes does. Last year, Wilson put together the right play at the right time, right? That was one thing Russell Wilson did for the Broncos, is he got that Chiefs boogeyman off of our back.
Right.
So I'm not terribly worried about their rest of season schedule. Could you find better matchups if you want to stream defenses? Yeah, sure. But consistently, this defense is playing well, and they're getting after the quarterback right now. I think they're second in the league in sacks, maybe third in the league in sacks, and they've given up the second fewest amount of sacks this season on the offensive line. It's a recipe for winning football in Denver right now.
Yeah. And I mean, realistically, for fantasy, I probably see Denver as a top 5 defense rest of season. Like, I wouldn't be fading them at that point, right? Like, yes, that strength on the surface level, the strength of schedule can look a little daunting, but
it does. But it's also not a real
play.
7-0 from Kansas City, right? Like, it's 7-0.
You are what your record say you are. Says you are. But my question is, who else would you rather have? Would we rather have Pittsburgh? Yeah, I would say yes. I would take the Steelers defense over the Broncos defense rest of season today.
I would as well.
We just have a little bit more faith in what Tomlin does there.
I don't know that I would.
What about the Vikings? The Vikings defense. Now, the last week was a bit of a, the Lions game and kind of giving it up. But the Vikings defense up to that point had been really good. They've been causing defense or offenses all sorts of crazy problems. Like Vikings, maybe because they were turning the ball over. I think that helps. But then what? Do you trust the Jets defense? The Jets look like they're imploding right now.
Correct.
So, are you guys, do you want to trust the Jets defense? No. The Bears, maybe. Their secondary is really good. Right. The Bears secondary is really good. It creates turnovers, but they don't get to the quarterback a whole lot, so you don't get the sack points. The Niners, maybe possibly, but they've still kind of looked like a shell of their former selves.
Right. Has been very up and down.
Kansas City, maybe. They always make the right play at the right time, but there's stretches of a game where their defense just is so-so. If it's not a big game, the Chiefs defense doesn't really seem to get up for it. I mean, who else? Packers, Bills, Chargers, or kind of some other top upper end defenses. I mean, that kind of goes through the top 10 of what we feel like rest of season rankings are.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I like the Broncos' chances against almost any of those teams.
Yeah, I would agree.
They really don't have an offensive juggernaut left on the schedule outside of the Ravens.
Yeah.
Right? Week 17, God only knows what could happen by then. Right? You could see Burrow could get hurt again. Chase could be gone. I mean, we've seen this song and dance. I'm not worrying about week 17 in week 9. I'll worry about week 17 and week 14. But other than that, I mean, they don't face an offensive juggernaut, so I'm not too worried about that defense.
Right.
Sorry, that's a long time to talk about fantasy football defenses.
Yes. All righty. Moving on over. Jesse over on YouTube. This is a response to Mario's
The CMC.
question of dropping CMC. And
CMC,
Jesse
yeah.
says, drop him. That Jesse will go and pick him up. LOL. All righty. And then
I'd be thinking the same thing.
so would I. Like, I wouldn't even hesitate. Just, nope, spending the rest of my fab on that one and bringing him on, right? And just looking to try and see that for 3 weeks out of the season, 15 through 17. That's where I need that roster play. Chris over on YouTube. It's crazy that is it crazy that considering starting a tight end at a flex, but Otten or Chase Brown at flex full point PPR.
I think it depends on how your scoring system's set up.
Right.
So yeah,
Tight end premium. That's not that crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. Otten, I think last week was the week for Otten. Cat's out of the bag now, right? This Chiefs.
But we knew that. Cade
Right.
Otton was the only receiver who'd been there. Like, that was the worst kept secret in the NFL.
Right. But now we have it on tape. Right?
Well,
we knew.
We had it on tape the week before when he got 10 targets as well.
Yeah.
Like, I get what you're saying.
Right.
I do. I get what you're saying.
But he's also going up against the Chiefs, which the Chiefs defense, as Kevin just said,
Giving it
come
up
up with
to
a big
tight ends. And they're giving it up to tight ends.
That's fair. But there is nothing there is no other passing option. So I think they'll key in on making sure that Cade Otton doesn't go crazy.
So half point PPR scoring, consensus rankings have Cade Otton at about just under 9 points.
He's full
Over-
PPR in his league, it says.
Okay, well, that's fine. So here,
We'll go that.
let me adjust my settings real quick. Just over 11 points.
Okay.
So over under 11 points for Cade Otton.
I'm going to go with over. And while, yes, the Chiefs give up the fewest points to opposing fantasy teams, right? Like they are a terrific scoring defense there for fantasy purposes. They give up the 7th most points to opposing fantasy tight ends. So where almost all of the points come from is the tight end position in those matchups against the Chiefs.
So
And I'm going with the over.
Conversely, okay, so over 11. Conversely, the Bengals are at home against the Raiders. So being at home is a great spot to be instead of being on the road during Monday Night Football, right? We agree with that?
Yep.
So Chase Brown, even with splitting a backfield, is seeing a little bit more of that timeshare than what Zach Moss has seen. Right now, full point PPR consensus rankings have him at RB 22 with a projected total of 14. So and again, this is consensus across 170 different people ranking these, right? This isn't just our stuff. But there's about 170 different people who compile rankings to come up with these. 14 points. Like, I see Chase Brown. Like, I don't know that I hate that. I could see the Bengals jumping out early and wanting to run the ball a little bit more. I could see that happening against the Raiders. But the last time we counted the Raiders out this bad, they went into Baltimore and kind of shocked everyone in week 2. Right. Now, that was with Devontae Adams.
Right.
So I do think there's a difference. But I don't know. I think I give the slight edge to Chase Brown because there's guaranteed touches in the running game. Like, you can scheme someone out of a passing game a little bit, but the running game, you get touches. You get the opportunity to hit a hole, break a tackle, and get gone. So I think that's why you lean Chase Brown. Is Otton's floor might actually be lower, but I think Chase Brown's ceiling's higher just because if he breaks one and is gone, like, he might come down with 5 catches for 65 yards and a touchdown and add another 60 on the ground. I don't think you're going to get 120 total yards out of Otton with a touchdown.
No. And the Raiders are giving up the 3rd most points to opposing fantasy running back. So it is a primo matchup there. And yes. I do think, right, I think you set the over-under at that one about 14. I would take the over on Chase Brown as well.
There you go. So we're not disagreeing with you, Alex. We're just looking at it a little differently.
I'm looking at the Chiefs schedule, and they have played a very tight end favorable. I don't know. I guess the way they've played some really good tight ends on this defense. So they've played the Ravens, right? And that was week 1 when Isaiah Likely went crazy, right? If I'm not mistaken. The Bengals. Well, I was just looking that up. Mike Gesicki had a great game.
No one expected Gesicki to go off.
Nobody did, but he did, right? They've played the Falcons, who have Kyle Pitts, the Chargers, who had sorry, I just had it up. Will Disley had a decent game. Really had 2 for 24. One of them was a 22-yarder. And then they played the Saints. Jawan Johnson had a game. The Niners, you get,
Kittle had a game.
And then the Raiders with Brock Bowers. Like, they have played some of the premier tight ends in the league already this year, with the exception of Gesicki going crazy, which he's done a couple times, but like, you don't really expect that. And a modest game from the Chargers tight ends in what was a low scoring 17-10 game.
I just think that's where their weakness is, right? They're so good in the secondary, right? And really, if you're going to have a weakness in the passing game, if you're sound everywhere else and you're stopping the running backs and you're not giving up those plays in the flat, and you can stop slot receivers and guys on the outside, like, if I had to give it up to somebody, I'd give it up to the tight end. Most of the time, they're catching it in the middle of the field. There's a lot of bodies around them, death by paper cut, because generally it's 7 to 8 yards a clip and then they go down, right?
It's also easier for your D linemen to get back and help tackle.
They're shorter routes, so hands in the air, you knock more passes down generally,
provided they're not running seams.
Well, so if I had to scheme it up, I'd scheme being weak against a tight end and live with that over every other position,
right? So
anyway, it's a good question, but I think Chase Brown's the way to go.
Yeah, agreed. Mario, over on YouTube, do you guys like Cook or Aaron Jones this week more in full point PPR?
James, I'm assuming, not Dalvin, just because he got in the game last week.
I'm gonna go with James as well.
Okay. Fair enough. I want to make sure.
I like James more so.
I think I like James Cook against Miami more right now. Right, this Miami's team they're trying to find a way, and you get it twofold with James Cook here at the moment. He'll be involved in the passing game a little bit throughout the game, but even more so if Miami is able to, for some reason, get a lead. I don't see it happening. Buffalo took it to him last time, and James Cook gashed him on the ground. And I think that's really what it is. Or Aaron Jones, who's having a solid fantasy season for
Minnesota.
The Minnesota, yes. Sorry, I'm about to say. I kept wanting to say Packers. I was like, that's not it. Don't say Packers. Don't say Packers. So I like Cook by a hair, but I think it's pretty close. Honestly, like, I don't see more than like 2, maybe 3 points of separation, unless one of these guys falls into the end zone twice. Like, that would be it. But just kind of stats and workload and what their usage is going to be, I'd take Cook by a hair, but it's not an overwhelming amount.
Yeah.
I think I like Cook, and I like Cook a little bit more because of the addition of Amari Cooper, right? I think defenses are going to now have to plan for Amari Cooper. Don't get beat by Amari Cooper, so it's going to take safety's eyes and their attention away from Cook, so I think it opens up some things for him. Now, Cooper was quiet in the first week, but I think that there's a natural progression there, so you don't want to get beat by Amari Cooper.
Yeah. I mean, give me the guy that put up 27 points against the Dolphins the last time that they played and gets the same matchup. Like, yes, please sign me up for that. Aaron Jones, I think, favorable-ish matchup against Indianapolis, but I think I'm kind of right there with you, Kevin, where I'm thinking that this is going to be maybe within 2 or 3 points. When it's all said and done, I would give the edge to Cook. Any other thoughts on this one? Jamie saying, what's up, guys? Not much. You know how we doing it, Jamie. Welcome in. Mario over on YouTube asking, do you guys think T. Higgins is fool's gold compared to guys like Downs, Coleman, Tillman, or Xavier Legette?
No, or is he legit?
Oh, well, that could be.
Is he
too.
fool's gold or is he legit? That's the question.
I believe the kids call that fact or cap.
Yeah.
So I like Higgins most on this list. However, I think Tillman and Downs are much closer than what anybody would ever have said even 2 weeks ago. Coleman, I know he caught the touchdown last week. I am not sold that Coleman is going to be a top 2 option in Buffalo going forward. I'm just not. Khalil Shakir kind of has his role uncompromised there out of the slot. Like, he sees pretty consistent work. Amari Cooper's only going to get more comfortable with Josh Allen. Maybe it helps Coleman a little bit because he doesn't see some of the high safety coverage. More of that's going to be filtered towards Allen. So maybe that helps Coleman slightly. But you also have Dalton Kincaid. You also have James Cook. So I just think it's not an embarrassment of riches based off of raw talent, but it is an embarrassment of riches off of capable guys in Buffalo. And all of those guys in Buffalo are truly capable. So I'm going to say Higgins, Tillman, number 2, because they don't have squat else to throw the football to. I about swore. Sorry, guys. They don't have squat else to throw the football to in Cleveland. Downs, now that Flacco's back, I think pushing the ball down the field helps Downs and then Coleman. So that's how I have them ranked, Mario.
I would agree with that. I do think T. Higgins is the number 1 on this one. But again, we saw the quarterback change, and that makes a world of difference for Downs and Tillman. A world of difference. You had Downs 2, Kevin, or Downs 3?
I had Downs 3.
Okay. I think
because I think Michael Pittman's going to be much more involved with Flacco.
That's very
than
fair.
What he has been with Anthony Richardson.
And Tillman is legit the only option that they've got for James.
Yeah, Judy's getting beat out by Tillman.
Yeah.
Like, man, does that draft pick look worse and worse.
Well,
good job, John Elway,
I guess. But yeah, I don't think T. Higgins is fool's gold. And in fact, I can tell you, I've been trying to figure out a way to get him on my roster in the home league.
So yeah, for me, I would have it Higgins, and then honestly, it comes down to with both Tillman and Downs, it's a coin flip for me. Like, I see these guys neck and neck with each other, especially with Joe Flacco coming into it. When we've seen Joe Flacco under center for the Colts with Downs in the lineup, Downs is getting 9+ targets a game, and I like that kind of volume for a wide receiver, especially a guy that's going to do a lot of damage in the slot. Those are going to tend to be high percentage completions, and he can run after the catch. So I like that one a lot. I do think that Tillman is going to receive the lion's share there. So it really does come down to a coin flip for me between those two. But Coleman would certainly be the lagging guy there. So any other thoughts on this one? All right, Mr. Wumbo, to be fair, just going back to that Calvin Ridley thought earlier, a big week for Ridley is like 3 catches for 40 yards. There are certainly times that it does seem that way.
Was he on pace for like 600 yards last week when that was? He was on pace for something ridiculous because he had a huge first quarter.
Right. So
125 yards. I mean, we'd take that out of any flex play. And that's what Ridley's been, right? He's a flex receiver. And I mean, you got rewarded for it last week if you had to play him.
It's very true. All righty. Next question. Let's hit it up. Mario saying, thank you for addressing the question. Most welcome. Jamie over on YouTube saying that Downs, Coleman, Tillman, and Legette are fool's gold compared to Higgins. Higgins is a Very talented individual. All righty. I think we all agreed with that when we were going through that. Turgay over on YouTube. Hey, Brees was the first round pick, but he doesn't get enough touches, targets. Jets are not very good, and their O-line plays like jelly. Do you think it's time to trade him? Well, with some of that does very much depend on what you can get out of that, right? Like Brees Hall still probably rest of the season top 5 back, but if you're not going to get that kind of value returned on that one, that's a tough deal to try and trade that away.
And last week was a down week for sure, but the 2 previous weeks he had looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
Been involved big time in the passing game, fell into the end zone. Like Brees Hall was not the issue for the Jets. If anything, they needed to find ways to get him the ball a bit more, because when Brees gets going, the passing game opens up for Rodgers. The Patriots did a good job, right? I mean, they stifled the run game. They made it tough on Rodgers. Like the Patriots do this to the Jets. Like death taxes and the Patriots beating up on the Jets. I don't know what else to say. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily willing to give up Brees Hall for absolutely nothing by any means. I think, like what Derek said, he's a top 3 to 5 back here for the rest of the season. So if you can find appropriate compensation and you want to make a move and you can find a league mate who's willing to make a comparable move, go ahead. I'm not saying you can't trade him, but definitely not for bag of peanuts or lesser than compensation. Other than that, just hold on to Brees and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking Jahmyr Gibbs are better.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we start to look at this, Jahmyr Gibbs are better.
Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon. I'd even maybe go down
Mixon,
to
I don't know about Walker. Maybe. I don't know about Walker, but maybe. I could sign off on the Mixon thing because he's getting so much of that backfield to himself right now.
Right.
Gibbs, I'd want Monty and a piece, right? Like Gibbs is dynamic enough. You play the upside card is why you need Gibbs by himself. But other than that, Monty and a piece. I'd be looking, if you want to upgrade, change it up. You're looking at Bijan, you're looking at Kyron, you're looking at Achane now that Tua's back. Right, we saw what a difference that was for the Dolphins, but I mean that's kind of it, man. That's the short list of it. Derrick Henry, but I don't think you're prying Derrick Henry away from that owner right now.
Same thing with Saquon.
Yeah, Saquon, same deal. So, I mean, all those guys are in that kind of sphere together, but I mean, I think if you're looking for disappointed owners, right, and you're just looking to change things up, like a disappointed owner might be Bijan, but he had a good game last week. So now their spirits are probably turning around a little bit. Derek, you have him in our home league. Do you feel better about him this week than you did last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, Bijan certainly has been, and granted, our league's a little bit different from the standpoint that we get points for, just
everything
and work and all of that. But the last 3 weeks, you've seen RB1 performances out of that. Whereas prior to that, you had yet to have one RB performance on the season. So, if you could hop in the time machine to go back about 3 weeks, you could probably very easily do that deal. But at this point, I think it'd be harder to try and get Bijan away from that. And I get the frustration there, but as far as the doesn't get enough touches and targets, the last 3 weeks for Brees Hall, he's been right around 20 opportunities throughout the games. I don't know that there's not many running backs out there or many positional players that are going to, see 20 plus opportunities a game like Brees Hall is getting. Those guys are few and far between.
They just need to quit. They need to quit taking him out inside the 3-yard line.
Yep. And
Braylon Allen's done a good job with that role. So it's going to be hard for him to take that over, but it's just one thing that they've done. They use Brees so heavily to kind of get down the field. If they get inside the 5, they'll use Braylon Allen to be that bowling ball because they want to protect their asset in Brees. I mean, that's what it is. They feel like they have a capable back to do it. Otherwise, Brees would do it like he has in years past. So we need Brees to get in the end zone, not get pushed out at the 2 or 3 yard line or get tackled by a shoestring right there at the end. You just need him to fall in the end zone once or twice more and it turns around. But touchdowns are hard to predict.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on this one? All right, Jamie, back to that Elijah Moore of Franklin. It's saying that it's either a super deep league or the roster is in trouble. Yeah, that's probably a pretty accurate summation there.
I'm hoping it's a deep league.
I'm hoping it's a deep league too. And again, with that one, Cedric Tillman most likely is on the waiver wire, and I'd rather have him than either one of those guys. Mr. Wumbo, Jalen Coker is owned in like 1% of leagues. Feel like I'd rather have him than those guys. That's a deep throw down there.
It's not. That's not a terrible thought though, because with Thielen on the IR and with Deontay just getting traded to Baltimore,
right?
Like, again, you have Xavier, you have Leggett, you have Coker, you have the guy they drafted out of
Parker, Washington.
No, that's Jacksonville. That's not Carolina.
Oh, you're right.
Mingo?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Mingo. I mean, Coker stood out. I mean, Coker's the one who scored the touchdown there on their opening drive against the Broncos. He found a way and he beat Surtain. I mean, he didn't beat a scrub corner. He beat arguably the best cornerback in the league.
Fair enough.
I mean, again, if you're taking a flyer, might as well.
There are 4 healthy wide receivers. It's Leggett, Mingo, Coker, and David Moore.
With either Bryce Young or Andy Dalton throwing the ball.
Yeah, I think quarterbacks will get you in trouble there. Like, I'd rather go with Jameis and Elijah Moore than Bryce Young.
Right. Alrighty. Ramblin' Man over on YouTube. Should I trade Stevenson, Rashad White, and Mooney for Achane? It's a half-point PPR. That is a lot to give up.
It seems like a lot. Would it be possible to get like a potential flex-worthy wide receiver or something in return?
Right.
That needs to be Achane.
Like, I don't hate this, right? Like, I don't hate the idea behind it. Rashad White's been having a down year, splitting the backfield. Stevenson just had a really good game, scoring the 2 touchdowns. Mooney has been a very good number 2 there in Atlanta. So I don't hate the idea of moving these pieces to grab Achane, but I feel like you're coming up a bit short. Like, you would need that and maybe like Josh Downs, right? Maybe Josh Downs is the move for that. Maybe a Keon Coleman, right? Some of those guys that we've been talking about just a little bit earlier, like maybe those type of guys that have wide receiver 3 flex type, but with wide receiver 2 upside.
Right. Jacoby Myers would be another guy I'd throw in there as well.
Shoot.
Yeah, Jacoby would be interesting, being the sole guy basically there in Vegas. Like, that would be an interesting one also.
Might be able to talk the Olave owner out of him.
Not with that package and giving up both Achane and Olave.
Yeah, I'd agree. I wouldn't give up Achane and Olave.
Right. You'd have to come way over the top again with something else to bring me back to the table on that one.
I need something better, yeah.
Any other thoughts on this one? All right. No? Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right. Turgay, back to saying that to Mario, among your options, Chief, rest of season, week 9, I'd say Commanders. Well, everybody gets their own opinion there, I suppose. All right. Kels saying that they lost Nico and Godwin. Thoughts on Ricky Parasol rest of season?
I think he's going to be active in that offense. I mean, Debo's coming back, obviously fighting the pneumonia thing and everything else, but Parasol's been involved here the last couple of weeks. He's run a lot of routes. They're trusting him to do some different things. He brings a different dynamic to this 49ers offense, right? He brings a little bit of a quick twitch, and not necessarily on deep routes, but it just brings a little quick twitch across the middle. You know, he strikes me as a guy willing to do the dirty things for the San Francisco offense. And if you are among the belief that McCaffrey is going to come back and at least be 70% of what he traditionally is, that opens up a ton in the passing game when you have so much attention on CMC. So I don't hate that as a flyer. Like I don't hate it as a dart throw. I wouldn't want to run him out as my wide receiver too, but I definitely wouldn't mind, having a stash on the bench, if you have the roster spot available and be able to kind of protect yourself a little bit, especially if you're shallow at receiver. That's not a bad stash with some upside.
Right. Yeah, I don't mind the stash play on that one. It is one of those that before I really play a flex type of thing there outside of pure desperation on that one, I want to see what this Niners offense looks like when we have Deebo Kittle and Juwan Jennings also on the field there as well, and just kind of see how that looks and works and where Parasol's role is with that combination. But I think that there is some definite upside and definitely worth a stash at that point. Any other thoughts here? All right, Ramblin' Man over on YouTube, Pittsburgh and Vikings. That's it. Back to the defensive special teams. A lot of defensive special teams questions tonight.
A lot of opinions.
Turgay saying that trust and the Jets are in the same sentence. Shame. Not WQB, Jelly O-line, worst coaching team ever lived, etc. That's a true Jets fan right there, I feel.
That is.
And I wouldn't say worst coach team. We did go through the Arthur Smith experiment in Atlanta last year.
Right. Well, I don't know.
We've
That
also seen
Nathaniel Hackett as a head
Nathaniel
coach
Hackett
pretty
in
much
Denver.
summarizes it.
Josh
Yeah.
McDaniels, both times.
Also
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. I can't get over the fact that the hometown team had to do like NBA shot clock.
Counting down. The fans had to count down to make sure that we could get the damn playoff before the clock ran out.
Yeah. Like you want to talk about the epitome of lowest of coaching, that would be the summation.
At home.
Right.
At home.
Right. So anyway, I love the comment there, Turgay. All right. Cursing Ryan over on Twitch. Welcome in.
Holy crap.
Got Otten, Kincaid, and Hawkinson. Opinion on who I should keep and who I should trade.
You trade whichever one you're going to get the most amount of return for.
Correct.
And then you just musical chairs between the other two.
Correct.
Like it sounds pretty blanket, but it is that simple. If someone's willing to give you a better deal for Hawkinson than they are for Kincaid or Otten, you move Hawkinson. And then the same thing just progresses on.
Correct.
Realistically, Otten might be, see if you can get Otten to move on his hot hand, because that's the one who has the lowest floor. And Mike Evans will come back. It will, make a difference on what Cade Otten does and doesn't see for his targets and target share and everything else. So if you can flip Otten right now for, I don't know, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, Brian Thomas Jr. Like I don't think you're going to get like wide receiver 1 range, but if you can get a solid wide receiver 2 out of that, deal gone.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Any other thoughts on this
Would
one?
you think that's the same range, or are you thinking
I think you're a little high, in my opinion there, as far as like McLaurin, Thomas Jr., Olave, like maybe a touch bit high. If getting like an Otten, a Kincaid, Hawkinson, but we also know that I'm not a big believer in the tight end there, and would typically just stream the position more often than not. But I do think that there is some value there, and potentially could go out and get maybe Amari Cooper, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, even a Deontay Johnson. I wouldn't see that being outside the range there. And maybe you could get up into like a DJ Moore, T. Higgins type of range there, but Olave, I think, is kind of the tippy top of the ceiling for me on that one. So, any other thoughts on this one?
Nope.
Alrighty. Mark over on YouTube, Sam Darnold or Matt Stafford, who do you prefer resto season?
I gotta check.
It's Sam Darnold for me, but it's extremely close.
I'd agree.
I mean, I realistically, I probably have these guys within rest of the season. I mean, probably when they averages out, it's going to be like a point to 2 points a week type of thing as far as the difference goes. And I have Sam Darnold just slightly ahead. So, I mean, I think when it's all said and done, rest of the season, we're talking a difference of 8 to 10 points probably separates these guys rest of the season through the next 9 weeks.
Be a fun little QB pairing. Like if you built it that way, like that's not a bad little QB pairing. You just kind of play the hot hand. Yeah, you keep 2 quarterbacks on the roster, but allows you to ultimately play true matchups. They both have good wide receiving weapons. They both have a solid run game. Stafford's is probably a little bit better with what they're getting out of Kyron Williams right now. But still, I wouldn't mind sitting on that in a single quarterback league, and you're just kind of flipping between the two and saying, okay, here we go.
Yeah, do the old quarterback by committee strategy for fantasy. That would be a very solid move there. Mr. Wumbo saying, I don't think I've ever held defense or special teams more than a few weeks in any league.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, very rarely do I hold on to one more than about 4 or 5 weeks. Mr. Wumbo, just trade Otten and Chase Brown for a single person and start them so you don't have to worry. I think that goes back to that Hawkinson, Otten, and Kincaid deal there. So,
yeah. Which is our next thing. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, there we go. So, once Nico comes back, this from Chris over on YouTube. Once Nico Collins comes back, Drake London moves in my flex. We'll just bench Otten and Brown.
That's a big win.
Right. I like the
heck yeah, which is why you look to flip, see what you can do. Flip, see if you can flip Otten for Monty. Then, like if that's where you need the help as running back, you're looking Monty. If you want to try and Najee, right? Najee's been on a little bit of a tear right now that no one kind of wants to talk about. So Najee Harris is a guy that you could look at. You could attempt the buy low on Travis Etienne. If you think he's going to bounce back, I'm hoping he does. Selfishly, I have a lot of ETN this year, so I've been a little bummed out here. So I'm selfishly hoping he bounces back a little bit. But we'll see how that goes.
Right. Yeah, and then Mr. Wumbo saying, "Dang, if London's your wide receiver 4, that's a problem that a lot of people would love to have."
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like my home team, the home league wide receiver core I've got.
What is a problem that I would kill for right now? I do not have that problem.
We should talk. All right. Anyway, any other thoughts on that original question of Chris is saying that Nick and Drake London to the wide receiver 4?
I actually do have a question that pertains to Nico Collins that I know it's going to kind of derail the questions that we have. But the Texans play Thursday. Is there any interest in grabbing a Xavier Hutchinson or Robert Woods?
Nope.
None
whatsoever.
No.
Big negative, Ghost Rider. I'd rather find Dalton Schultz, play him. And he's going to be available on most of the waiver wires.
You'll see Tank have a pretty big game. You'll see Joe Mixon just be fed.
Yep. That wouldn't surprise me. We look up and we see Joe Mixon with 30 touches, 30 opportunities in this game.
Yeah.
So
you guys are not having a Xavier Hutchinson breakout or a John Mitchell the third breakout game.
Would have thought we would have seen it, sometime before now.
It just with Diggs down, right? Defense will key in on Tank Dell. It is a thought that popped into my head that maybe defenses now can key in on Tank Dell, that it frees up Xavier Hutchinson or Robert Woods. More likely, I think Robert Woods than Xavier Hutchinson, but
what I think they'll do is I think you'll see Robert Woods stay out on the outside, primarily running like an X type of receiver role, and you'll see Hutchinson out there in the gunner role, and you'll see a Tank Dell working primarily out of the slot, so it's not going to really change the coverages that he ultimately sees on that one, because you're not going to take your outside corners, move them into to play the slot in most cases.
You'll leave those guys play more nickel in that case.
Potentially.
I guess a lot of teams base now is nickel, but
yeah, no, that's a good question. I'm not betting my fantasy week on an Xavier Hutchinson, Robert Woods call.
I hate that it's the Thursday game for them. Like that sucks.
Yeah. Alrighty, and then Blue Jays over on YouTube, Cup and Reed for AJ Brown.
Yeah, I'd do that. I'd do that.
Yeah, I don't mind it. AJ Brown certainly going to be a little bit more streaky than what you'll likely see out of Cup, but he's just going to be as streaky as Reed has been. So, but with a lot more upside and a much more consistent floor, so I don't mind it. Any other thoughts there?
No. Yes, sir.
All right. Alec over on YouTube, who should I start as the wide receiver 2 spot? Flex is a half-point PPR. Dell, Devonta Smith, Brian Thomas Jr. or Madison.
I would lean Dell. Yeah, I'm staying there. And flex. Sorry. So
I really like this Eagles-Jacksonville matchup, so I think I'm going to try and find a way to get Devonta Smith in there.
Yeah.
With BTJ's injury, like, I don't know. Like, I think I'd rather play on the upside of Dell on a Thursday night, because if you're counting on BTJ and then he doesn't go, then you're stuck with Madison.
Yeah, and Madison's the guy I want least in this option.
Yeah, I'd agree. So I think because of the question mark around Brian Thomas Jr., it's Dell and Smith this week.
And the way I would set that is Dell's playing that Thursday night game. He goes in the wide receiver spot, and Devonta Smith goes in the flex spot, so you maintain some flexibility in case something happens down the stretch at practice there, right? Yep. So that's how I would set that one up. Any other thoughts on this one? All righty. Pareco over on YouTube. Trading Njoku for Russ or Carr plus Komet in a Superflex league. Other current tight end is Ferguson, and the QBs are Daniels, Anthony Richardson, and Jameis Winston.
No.
Is it? Yeah. At that point, if you got Jaden, you'd be running out Jaden Daniels and Jameis Winston.
And your tight end's Ferguson. Like, you're fine. I see that you have disposable Njoku.
Yeah, it's Njoku. Yeah. So I mean, I get the potential trying to pick up a different quarterback since Anthony Richardson headed to the bench, and potentially getting the depth there, but
I think he's looking to cover bye weeks.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to check.
When's Washington's bye week? 11.
Hold on.
Cleveland's is 10. So Jameis is out week 10. This is how much I don't pay attention weekly to the Commanders.
Did they already have their bye week? They play Thursday, week 11.
They've got a week 14 bye.
14. Geez. So he's doing this to cover 2 bye weeks to finish the season. So yes.
Yeah, I guess you have to.
Yeah, and you're not tied to Komet at that point, right?
You have Ferguson, Russ or Carr, right?
Then Russ. I'd rather have Russ than Carr.
I think I would too. Also, Steelers are on their bye week this week,
which is fine.
Yeah, but I think he would also have to cover Carr bye week, which I think is the same as one of his other guys. I think it's week 11.
Yeah, at that point, it doesn't matter to me. I'd rather have Russ over Carr, period. And the fact that the bye weeks at that point doesn't matter
Yeah,
sign me
it
up
just
for-
allows him to navigate it through the back end as he's making his playoff push.
right.
So
The
I
Raiders-
get the force out of this. Yeah, I mean,
the Raiders also have the same bye week as Cleveland, so you'd have
so
Carr
they're
and
2
Jameis
and
down.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'd have
so
Carr
it's Russ.
and Jameis down, so it's Russ.
So if,
yeah.
so if
Except
you
for-
want to do the deal, go Russ.
Except for cars in New Orleans, not Las Vegas these days.
Oh, son of a gun! That was a dumb.
Yeah.
12.
Either way, I think we're
12.
all in consensus.
They're
that-
week 12. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, we're all in consensus that it's Russ on this one that we'd rather have. So yes, do the deal, Njoku for Russ and commit.
God, he's been in New Orleans for like a half a decade at this point too. That's terrible.
Okay. Alec over on YouTube saying a 12-person half-point PPR feel like they have too much depth at wide receiver. Mainly, what upgrades should they look for? They have Lamb, Debo, Smith, Brian Thomas Jr., Dell. They also have Kittle and Njoku. Do you think I should trade one of them?
I don't think you can have too much depth at wide receiver this year. I'm just
Yeah, I
gonna
don't know that you have too much depth at wide receiver, right? Debo
barely.
does not stay the healthiest of wide receivers. Brian
BTJ's
Thomas
got a
Jr.
thing.
has a thing.
Devonta Smith has missed time already this season.
Yeah, it would be interesting if you could pair one of those tight ends with Smith to get like another solid,
Really
like-
solid wide receiver.
like if you could pair, yeah, because Njoku and Dell isn't enough to get Nico, so it'd have to be like Kittle and Smith for Nico,
Right. Or maybe even
something
go down
like that, or
go
AJ Brown, right? Look at AJ Brown.
right. Or even going down a little bit and doing like Adele and Njoku for potentially like
Florin, maybe.
that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
thinking was Terry McLaurin, maybe a Puka, maybe a Cooper Cup, something like that. Like that
Yeah,
would
I think you have some options.
Yeah. That would certainly try to round that out. At that point, I think it even provides a little bit of an upgrade there as well at the depth.
Yeah. So obviously you don't want to trade Njoku this week because Kittle's on a bye, but I think it's definitely something that if you're looking for an upgrade before the trade deadline, I would look at flipping Kittle or Njoku and a piece to get a better wide receiver.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, it depends on what your league mates are interested in and what kind of, I don't know, what if they're willing to trade, if they like the back and forth conversation, if that type of thing. Like I wouldn't say overpay for it, but
What
you definitely have some options.
do you think? Could you pull off maybe an Njoku and Debo and try and go out for like an Tyreek?
I don't. For me, that wouldn't work because I'm not the Debo guy, right? Like, I don't like Debo enough to do that, but I think that for, I don't know, Debo and Njoku for, I'd look at Garrett Wilson, I'd look at AJ Brown, I'd look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'd look at.
What do you think about Drake London in that mix?
I would think that you could do Smith and Njoku for Drake London.
Okay.
Drake London's underappreciated still. So I think that you can
Correct.
capitalize on that. So you don't need to give up Debo for that. But I think you could give up Devonta Smith for that possibly and Njoku.
Okay. Yeah, I know where I would try and just see if I could pull off a Debo and Njoku for Tyreek and just see if I could pull that one out. But I like your thoughts there. Any other thoughts on this one? All right, Speed Demon over on Twitch. Sup, boys? Steelers bye week. Are they a keepable defense? They would have to drop Njoku if keep the Steelers defense 6-man league. Tight ends are Kelsey, McBride, Njoku. Please help. I've been debating all day. Laughing on that one.
That's
a
dirty.
6-person league, unless you've got multiple tight ends, like multiple starting tight ends, you can certainly drop one of them. But as far as defense goes, I think you've got Steelers defense. I've got them number one rest of the season. But in a 6-person league,
Man,
there's
I wanna
probably
play
a
in
whole lot of
league right
defenses
now.
available.
Well, and that's what it is. Like, how do your league mates hoard defenses? Or
Right.
do they just all play one and you have, 26 other defenses basically out there, 22 other defenses out there to choose from? Because if you could just play the matchup, I'd take my gamble on dropping the Steelers and just playing Russian roulette with defenses the rest of the way to not give someone a presumably top 5 tight end the rest of the way in Njoku. At least a solid top 10 tight end. Maybe not top 5, but at least a solid top 10.
Fair enough. Frank's over on YouTube. McConkey is on the waiver wire, and so is Calvin Ridley. Who do they pick up?
Ooh. I'm going to lean on McConkey because I like the quarterback situation that much more. Now, McConkey had a big week last week also. So I think, I think that passing game is going to have to stay intact a little bit. They're trying to find that balance in Harbaugh's, new offense. But I think McConkey's only going to get better as the season kind of goes along here, right? We've gotten halfway through. This is typically the time of year we see rookie receivers kind of have it click and take that step forward. We've liked Ladd McConkey through the draft process and the player profiles that we did preseason. We've kind of worked through his growing pains, but I like him going ahead. I like him over Ridley. I just because I trust the quarterback more.
I would agree. Cosign.
Yeah, and I think you look at clearly this last week against Detroit was the exception and not the rule when it comes to Calvin Ridley, right? Like, he has not had more than double-digit targets in any game. And then finally he gets 15 targets.
It's because I dropped him in the home league.
Yeah. So I think that's the exception. Whereas I think McConkey has been more consistent throughout the season. And he's been consistent in getting basically 5 catches a game. Now, he went ham, 5 catches for 111 this last time and 2 touchdowns, but you kind of know what you're going to get with Ladd McConkey, whereas Ridley, I think you also know what you're going to get, and maybe that's his one pop game, but I'm a little more favorable to McConkey.
Agreed. All right, Rambler Man. Thanks, fellas. Maybe I can also ask him for Addison or a suspended JMO to that Achane deal.
I'd lean Addison over JMO. The cops are looking for JMO right now, is the latest report. So I'd stay away. I think there's more news to come here coming up on this JMO deal.
Mr. Wumbo is saying that JMO's locked and loaded as a flex play.
Like the gun they put in the back.
It might be locked and
anyway,
might be locked in the clink here soon.
Yeah. There are some allegations out there. Allegedly. Right? Rambler Man. Also Moore or Reed rest of season half point PPR. Thanks, guys. I would assume
DJ Moore.
Yeah, I would agree.
DJ Moore. Reed doesn't see enough of a target share. He's a big play guy, has explosive capabilities, but for a half point PPR and getting kind of some of those hidden points, if you will, I think DJ Moore is your guy here.
Yeah, I would agree. Any other thoughts on that one?
No.
Nino on over on YouTube. How are we feeling about Deontay with the Ravens now? Got Zach Charbonnet and take Dell for him. I got Kenneth Walker right now, so kind of seems like the right move. I would make that deal.
I think I would too.
I think Deontay Johnson went from potentially being kind of a rest of the season back end wide receiver 2 to a wide receiver 3, I think is where he can top out in this offense. The Ravens just don't pass the ball enough to have Deontay really, really eat in this offense.
I'd agree. I'd take Zach Charbonnet, get the handcuff, and get Tank Dell, who's going to be really worst case the number 2 in Houston the rest of the way with the Diggs injury. So I think this is a good deal for you.
Right. He was asking, is it worth the trade? Or hang on. Yep. No, we're saying it's worth the trade.
It's worth the trade.
Chandler, over on YouTube, trade Dobbs and Brooks for JSN and Worthy. The other wide receivers are Debo, Evans, Myers, running back is CMC, Henry, Bijan, Pacheco. So don't necessarily need Brooks. Kind of need the wide receiver depth with Debo banged up and Evans out.
Do you guys know right offhand when Brooks is coming back?
It's going to be here in the next couple of weeks.
He's got an injury designation on him. Let me check.
Well, he's had that pup all season long.
They have
Yeah.
one more week that they need to activate him. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's the rest of this week and next.
I think that's correct, but I mean, at that point, you're right. You certainly really don't need the need that Brooks there, and you are right that you're hurting with that wide receiver deal.
I think you can do better than JSN and Worthy, though.
So do I.
Like, I don't mind it. I understand the thought process, and I think you're right with the thought process. You need to protect yourself. Devo's on a bye. Evans is hurt for a few more weeks. Like, I get what you're trying to do here. And I'd agree. You don't need to be tied to Brooks. But I think you can do better than JSN and Worthy because Dobbs is already playing better than JSN and Worthy combined. Like, you'd never get that 2-for-1 necessarily, but if we're looking at it, Dobbs is more fantasy relevant than JSN or Worthy. So adding in Brooks, I'd be looking for a little bit better. So who would I be looking for? Let's go ahead, Alex, and I'm going to start looking this.
Yeah, an update on Brooks. He has been practicing, but they are being uber cautious with him. So he's practiced the last 2 weeks, but has not yet played. Obviously coming off the ACL. So we haven't seen his first game yet. And that's
which is the time to move him. Right.
Right.
Because if he's a dud, then you lose all value, especially if you're trying to improve your wide receiver position.
Yeah. So I think you do that, but I'm with you, Kevin, that I think Dobbs and Brooks, you should be able to get something better than JSN and Worthy. But if I see what you're trying to do here to get your wide receiver depth up. So if you're looking to go Dobbs and Brooks for wide receiver, because Debo's questionable, Evans is hurt.
Yeah. Like I'm looking like Downs, Mooney, McConkey.
Those were the 3 I had in my mind.
Which I don't know that you necessarily
maybe Cedric Tillman.
You may not necessarily need to trade for them, right? But those are guys that are on waiver wires in a lot of leagues. So
if it's a short bench, it could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cedric Tillman it's gotta be a pretty short bench. Tillman might be out there. If that's the case, you pick Tillman up.
Yeah.
Mooney most likely isn't out hanging out on the waiver wire. McConkey might be. Josh Downs most likely isn't either. So but yeah, Kevin, those were the 3 names that popped into my head when we were looking at that as well. So
like and I'm saying that those are all guys in the same kind of range, right? Like I'm not saying it's terribly far off. I'm just saying,
man, and I don't even know.
If you need wide receiver help, let's get some volume wide receiver help right now because you're not going to get volume with Jacoby Myers. They don't, you can't trust the Raiders to throw the ball that much. Debo, you don't see a ton of volume. He's big play. That's kind of what Worthy is. JSN's either the second or third guy, especially if DK's healthy. So that's what I'm thinking, like Tillman, McConkey, guys who are, the 1 or 2 option, maybe in lesser passing offenses, but can still provide a good ceiling.
I know that he's looking to move Dobbs here, but should Dobbs be the one that you're looking to move, or should it be Debo?
If you're looking to move Debo, you're talking a whole different caliber of wide receiver that you're looking to get back. Romeo Dobbs averaging about 9 points, 9 points a game in fantasy, kind of down there in the wide receiver 3-4 range. So it really depends too on how much of a roster shakeup that you really want to try and go out and get and want to have happen there.
I mean, but look at yes.
And at that point, if you're looking more for depth than not, then I like the picking up Tillman off the waiver and trying to do that move and really trying to get Darnell Mooney, trying to get a. I would
or if
Go
you're
ahead.
just looking to move Brooks,
right.
That's
like
the
maybe
other,
you don't need to move Dobbs. If you just look to move Brooks,
try and sell
Downs,
somebody on the
Michael
promise.
Pittman, Lad McConkey, maybe
Yeah.
JSN by himself. Like I would do that. Brooks for JSN by himself for some depth.
No.
But if you need wide receiver help, I don't think you need to trade away a wide receiver to get two more just like him. Like,
Because you're
so long thought out process. Maybe you take Dobbs off the table. Does that just get you JSN? And if the answer is no, do you have another league mate, right? You could look at Darnell Mooney. You could look at, Downs. You could look at McConkey. You could look at, George Pickens. Maybe, right? Something that might be kind of the high end. But I think Pickens is going to see a good little uptick here with Russ under center.
I would agree.
He's given us the most recent here, Kevin or Derek, if you want to go down to it.
All right, so 12-team. Chandler's saying that team is a 12-team PPR. Top wide receivers on waivers are Judy, Ray, Quentin, Slayton, Tolbert, Shepard. Nobody else wants to trade. He was the only option. They're a very big Debo fan. They've had him for the very last seasons. Have the jersey, couldn't trade Debo even if they wanted to.
That's fair. Everybody has a guy like that.
Everybody's got your guy. Everybody's got a guy.
So I get that. Get your guy. Keep your guy on your roster.
Yeah.
So
you're in a tough spot here. But I would say take away. Try to move Brooks. See what you can get with Brooks. See what your dance partner will go for Brooks. Have the conversation there.
And I would set my sight on Darnell Mooney, fall back to a Josh Downs or Michael Pittman, Lad McConkey, JSN, kind of in that order. And as that list ascends, I start looking for potential other things that I could add in there that could potentially help out there. Any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All righty. Rust over on YouTube. Should I trade Jaden Reed and Brian Robinson for Amon-Ra?
Yes.
Sure.
Quick one there. I like it. They traded McLaurin for Tyreek in one league. What you think?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what what
take the upside
comes back. But yeah, I think McLaurin and Jaden Daniels have kind of got something going here.
They do, for sure. Tyreek's just on that different level, right? If him and Tua can finally sink in and Tua stays healthy, it's a league-winning type of move that you're trying to make here. I'm all for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing do is like you hit the nail on the head. Jaden and McLaurin on a making things click and all of that, but we're seeing the tippy top of what that looks like.
Yeah.
Right now, right? Like there's not another level of ascension, at least in my opinion, on that one this season. As far as that combination goes, Tyreek and Tua, like that could be a tight or a wide receiver 1 weeks 9 through 17. Like that, there's a whole other level of elite upside there on that one. So I like that one as well. Any other thoughts here?
No.
Okay. Nino over on YouTube. Just curious, what's your other running backs? Russ Maniac, but already leaning yes on taking that towards the deal. So, alrighty. And he did let us know that the other running backs in that league are Gibbs, Hunt, and Taylor. So, yeah. Yeah, you could move that one.
No.
Alrighty, and then Mr. Wumbo replying back to Chandler, it stinks when you're not sure that about guys' value after a trade, especially so close the fantasy trade deadline, like Deontay, Flowers, Leggett, Thielen, Hopkins, Worthy, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Alrighty. And then Russ Eniak was saying that over on YouTube was saying that they lost Ayuk, Diggs, and Rice in one league.
Oh, that's brutal.
That is brutal.
Keep going.
The next thing that you would tell me is that you also lost Chris Godwin in that league too. But and to top it off, Russ Maniac says Mooney the kicker also got hurt.
Yeah,
Russ. This is
a
a season you'll never forget. This is one you're going to talk about for a while.
True.
I think that the ones that are catastrophic are just as memorable as the championship ones.
I don't know. I block out the catastrophic ones so that I only have
you tried it too. Yeah, but as somebody who's had more catastrophic than championship, I remember the catastrophic ones pretty well.
Fair enough. All righty. Chandler over on YouTube. Also, start Rodgers Thursday night. Scares the ever living out of him. Pick up Bo or Carr or Stafford 6 points passing TD.
Stafford.
Stafford. We kind of talked about this to start the show off a little bit, and I think Stafford this week is the move. I don't know that Rodgers gets started the rest of the year, man. Like with those options out there, I don't know why you like. I think it's time to cut bait. That team is anemic. That offense is garbage.
I knew you guys saw the stat out there that teams were 750-0 when giving up 20 or when scoring more than 20 plus points, not giving up a turnover, and there was one other stat in there that I can't remember off the top of my head, but the Jets were the only team to add to that and become 750-1 now.
Yeah, that's brutal.
So,
that's brutal.
Yeah,
historic for all the wrong reasons.
Yes, that would be accurate there. Jay Smells over on YouTube. Should they trade Metcalf and Waddle for Mooney and Connors? Need a better running back and have a wide receiver to spare.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you feel good about that, go for it. I like that.
Yep. Alex, any other thoughts on the trade?
No, it's good.
All right, Michael over on YouTube. 3 wide receiver league, full point PPR. Need running back. They have Madison, Etienne, Mostert, Moss, Davis. The wide receivers are Amon-Ra, Josh Downs, Ladd, McConkey, Franklin, Pickens. Debo was thinking of trading Downs for Tracy.
I
don't want to give up
Downs right now.
After the news today, I think Downs has become a lot more valuable.
Uh-huh.
So I'm staying put. I'm not.
Mostert's healthy now, so he's starting. We've seen him fall into the end zone here a little bit, so we got to feel better about that.
Annoyingly so, as an HN owner.
Right. Etienne, we should see a better version of him starting this week. I expect him to come back and play this week. So again, I'm holding out a little optimism for Etienne. Madison is what it is, but I'm not opposed to trading Downs, but I feel like you're trading him before his upside kicks in with Flacco.
Correct.
Like, I think and Tracy's doing a decent job, but I think you can squeeze a little bit more out of Downs if he comes out and has a good week with Flacco this week.
So realistically, this week, who are you starting out of the 6 guys that he's got? 3 wide receiver, full PPR. You're starting St. Brown.
Yep.
You're gonna start.
I'm starting Downs
and McConkey, right?
If Debo's healthy, I'm playing Debo.
Debo's on a bye.
They're on a bye.
Okay, then I'm going Pickens. Pickens has been
They're on a bye too.
That's true.
Yeah. So
St. Brown, Downs, and Ladd. Like the decision for the receivers are easy.
Yeah.
It's Madison against the Bengals. Okay, whatever. Etienne against the Eagles, assuming he's healthy. I think he's going to be healthy this week. So
the point though that I'm making here is this is not the week to trade Downs because you're going to end up starting Franklin, right? Because Pickens and Debo are both out. You trade Downs, you're down to St. Brown, Lad McConkey and Franklin as your wide receivers this week. It's not the week to do it.
I'd co-sign with that just based off of that general reasoning.
Yeah. It's just not Michael, I think you're on the right track here. It's just not this week.
And to be honest, I wouldn't mind trading a Debo or Pickens and really upgrading that running back room.
Yeah.
Either.
I think you could probably get a better name.
George Pickens with Russ under center is a top 10 wide receiver.
Yeah.
Trade Debo for Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, I would do that.
Done. Yeah. It's not the week to do it though, because you're gonna sacrifice a week, which maybe you sacrifice the week for the season, but I don't know. I don't know if you're in a position to do that.
Right.
But you're gonna sacrifice the week if you do that. You're gonna have a pretty rough go of things at receiver this week.
Okay. Yeah, any other thoughts on this one?
No.
All right, Slapsky over on YouTube. Available Coleman, Tillman, Thielen, Leggett, Tolbert, Schultz, Komet. Tillman is the number one guy I'm going for out of that group.
Yeah.
Co-sign.
All right.
Then Coleman. Tillman, then Coleman.
Correct.
Yeah.
Slapsky, 12-man, full point PPR, 2 flex starters, Kyler, Henry, Brian Robinson, CD, Waddle, McBride, Higgins, Devonta, Smith. The bench is Spears, Waddle, Braylon Allen, Wandell, McMillan, and Nico is on the IR. Making moves, third place, most points scored in the league.
I would take out Jalen Waddle and put in Wandell Robinson.
Yeah.
This week.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But as far as adding anybody, if you have to drop to go get Tillman, are you dropping anybody to go get Tillman?
Braylon Allen, I don't have any problems moving off of.
Yeah.
I don't have any problems moving off Rico Dowdle either.
Fair.
Like he's a place warmer, and I get it. You need running back depth, but I mean, Allen first, and then yeah,
Your starting lineup
Tillman
is really good.
And then Slapsky saying that the flex can be tight end, wide receiver, running back. Okay. So.
Yeah, you're going after Tillman here. Hopefully it's a fab league, right? That way you can not have to deal with the priorities. You at least have a fair shot at him. But I'd be going after Tillman here, and I'd play Tillman over Waddle this week.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Mr. Wumbo, this is back into the Devo jersey thing, saying that with the time missed is the jersey just a suit. So that's a rough one there, Mr. Wumbo.
That's dirty.
Doing it.
Slapsky saying that we're just skipping the chat notes.
No, we jumped down and went back up. We're good.
Yeah. Mr. Wumbo was commenting that we're getting there. So appreciate everybody hanging in there. We're working through all of these. All righty. And then Ezekiel, Tillman or Ridley, good for pickup. Tillman, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
then,
I like Tillman first.
Yep. And I don't mind picking up Ridley either, but Tillman would be my first priority. Cam the Ham, should I trade CMC, Jordan Mason, and Cooper for Kyron and Hopkins? No, that's giving up a lot.
I would do this.
I would do this too.
Okay. I could see it.
Jordan Mason doesn't catch the ball. I don't think CMC is going to be the guy everyone wants him to be when he comes back. Yes, Cooper's going to get acclimated, but Hopkins is going to get acclimated too.
Okay.
So,
and Kyron's the best
I'd
player
rather
in this
have
deal.
Kyron. Yeah, right now,
Yeah.
Kyron is the best player in this deal. I agree with Alex.
Okay. Slapsky was saying that they lost 171 to 180 last week.
Those close games hurt.
Yeah, they do.
I lost by point. What did I say? 0.7 in one of my leagues. 0.7, less than 1 point. Brutal.
Yeah, does stink. Cam the Ham over on YouTube saying, or CMC and Mason and Pickens for Breece Hall and Hopkins.
I think I like the Kyron one better.
Yeah, I would rather have Kyron. If you can get Kyron on your roster right now, I think you try to go get Kyron on your roster.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. All righty. Russ Maniac over on YouTube. Even with losing Rice, Ayuk, and Diggs, the roster is Hurts, Gibbs, Hunt, Higgins, McLaurin, Bowers, Jonathan Taylor. The bench is Andrews, Bigbie, Dowdle, Reed, Brian Robinson Jr., Tillman, and Juwan Jennings. I think you've done very well with that roster and navigated some of those injuries.
Good job.
All righty. And then Julian over on YouTube, trade away DK for B-Rob or Josh Jacobs. They have Drake London and Puka, D-Hop, Tank Dell at wide receiver, and Dobbs, Brees at running back.
I go Jacobs.
Okay. I was going to say Brian Robinson's not bad, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd go.
If you can get Jacobs, I think you're more likely to get Brian Robinson, but if you can get Jacobs, go for it.
Yeah, I would co-sign on
DK
that.
Straight up?
That Jacobs and B-Rob in that order.
Yeah.
Cool.
All righty. Chandler, have Purdy in other QB as Rodgers, drop Rodgers, or play him Thursday, which scares. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that one's.
We talked about this. Stafford.
Yeah, we got Stafford.
Drop Rodgers, grab Stafford. You'll be all right.
Yep. And then, guys, we got a couple of comments and questions in the chat left, and we are going to hit those ones up, and we're going to call it a night. But before we get there, do appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in. Do us a favor, head over to YouTube, click the subscribe button, ring the bell, hit the like button, all that good stuff. And if you're watching this on another platform or listening on another platform, do us a favor, click that follow, click that subscribe button, all that good stuff, and show the love. Very much appreciate that. All right, next question here. Ezekiel over on YouTube, should I trade Pitts for Pollard? They got Otten and Bowers already.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, I like this.
Smash yes.
You've got Otten and Bowers, yeah. Pitts becomes very expendable.
Yeah,
and honestly, I don't know that I would aim a little higher after the week that he had.
Yeah.
Not just Pollard.
You could aim higher, but Pollard's been pretty damn consistent this year. He's been a really good RB2.
Yeah.
Well, he's probably a top 20 RB the rest of season. So, but I get the thought on trying to ride that sell high, right?
If you can sell higher,
absolutely.
Try it.
And then Michael over on YouTube, thank you guys for all the help. Appreciate you. You are most welcome. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Ramblin' Man over on YouTube, trade Rashad White and Hawkinson for DJ Moore, half point PPR.
As long as you feel like you're set at tight end, yes. Did he give us I mean, I know we've hit a bunch of questions tonight, and I know we've seen something else from him.
Right,
Stevenson, Rashad White, and Mooney for Achane. That's that question.
I'm trying to see. As I know, Ramblin'.
I don't see a roster. So as long as you feel like you're set at tight end, then yeah, I'd do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All righty. And then Mario saying that they've subscribed, they enjoyed and they enjoyed the conversation setting. Appreciate everybody tuning in and chiming in and all the interaction and everybody rocking and rolling with us. We'll be back again live Friday 11 p.m. Eastern. Russ Maniac, this is going to be the last question of the night. We're going to head into final thoughts.
At
the buzzer, he gets it in. So in another league, the starters are Hurts, Achane, Mixon, Lamb, Olave, Njoku, Dobbins. The bench is Chubb, Amari Cooper, Marvin Harrison Jr., Tucker Kraft, Pitts. Who do I start?
So you got one quarterback, two running backs, two wideouts, a tight end, and a flex. That's what that looks like to me. So
probably going
Achane and Mixon are your running backs.
Yeah.
Right.
Hurts is the play at quarterback. It's obviously the only play you have.
Obviously, Lamb's a no-brainer.
Right.
Pitts over Njoku or not Tucker Kraft.
Tucker Kraft's been sneaky this season, but I would go Njoku as the tight end start this week.
Tight end start, yeah.
I would very well may lean Marvin Harrison Jr. over Olave.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. I think you're a week away from Amari Cooper. Hell, this week might be the week for Amari Cooper, but I think you're a week away from Amari Cooper. So that leaves you leaving Dobbins in the.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the right play.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison Jr. Olave and the Saints have got Carolina this week, and this could be very much one of those that
Don't you dare say they're going to blow them out. They ain't blowing anybody out.
could happen. Could happen that one's this could be the week 1 Saints that we see back in action here again, and that game's over at halftime.
See, if anything, I'm thinking Harrison Jr. over Dobbins.
Okay, I could get down with that too.
Trying to see. Can't even freaking find Dobbins on my list here. Maybe I left him off.
I would still probably lean the Dobbins side of it, just from the standpoint that
There we go.
at the flex, I like the floor that's provided there. But at the same time, too, Russ Maniac, some of that's going to depend upon where you're at as far as
Chicago. I think he's right. Dobbins. I don't like that at Chicago matchup.
Right.
Or home against Chicago. I agree. Never mind. As you have it set.
So you would go with Olave over Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yes.
Okay. Alex, any differing thoughts there?
Want the easier matchup.
I'm Marvin Harrison Jr., but I could be swayed.
Okay. For me, it's Kevin. You make a great point with the matchup there, and it's a coin flip for me between Olave and Marvin Harrison Jr. But the rest of the lineup, I'd leave it that way. So, Russ Maniac, if you've got a strong feeling one way or another, we've got kind of a split decision on the panel tonight there as far as that one goes. You can, but you've got some other reasonings there as well, and you can make that decision there. Awesome.
Maybe you shouldn't have gotten that question in. Maybe we've.
And this last comment there is Ramblin' Man says they also have Otten and Kincaid as well at tight end. It's an excellent roster. So yeah, if you've got Hawkinson and Otten and Kincaid, you can move off of one of those guys to go get a DJ Moore. And Russ Maniac saying bet, thanks y'all. All righty, guys, that's going to take us down to the end of it. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
No, thanks for a great show, guys. Love the interaction. Love all the questions. All these questions make this show a heck of a lot. It's fun to begin with, but it makes it really fun. Like I really enjoy being able to do all this. So appreciate y'all tuning in. As Derek said, head on over to YouTube, hit like, subscribe, ring, that way you can get the bell notifications. Derek and I will be back on Friday night at about 11:15 Eastern time is when we will get on the airwaves, and we'll kind of do round 2 of this right before we start setting weekend lineups and look forward to the home stretch here. We start the playoff push, getting rosters solidified and getting after it here so we can get in the playoffs and go after ships and money.
Cash and trophies. Alex, any final thoughts out there?
No, make sure you do tune in Friday. The guys will be with you. And then again next Tuesday. I unfortunately have to skip. The old JOB has called me again away from doing the show next week. So make sure you guys are here Friday and then Tuesday, and on Tuesday as well. Not that it will matter, but by the time you guys are talking, we'll have our first college football playoff rankings as well. So that'll be something fun to digest and see what's going on.
I'm sure that'll be the top of the subject line. That's what I'm going to be looking at.
It's the only thing really happening on Tuesday night. So
only thing worth noting.
There we go. Ramblin' Man did also chime in, say that they appreciated it and they subscribed for sure. All righty. Well, guys, that's going to do it for us. You can find us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those places at Good Old Boys FF. In the meantime, questions, comments, you can send them over to us. We get back to those just as quickly as we can. But that's going to do it for us tonight. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in, chiming in, all the questions, comments, all the interaction. Thank you very much. He is Kevin. He is Alex. I am Derek. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloos.